Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
All right, I want to start with Leader Pelosi. She made a statement recently to the California Democrat State Convention, and she said, I asked a Republican friend why his party remains so opposed to extending the vital lifelines for struggling families and really hungry children. This colleague's response was telling it in blunt nature, and it's stunning in its honesty. What he said was, to the Republican caucus, these people you are talking about are invisible, and the Republican caucus is indifferent to them. Invisible and indifferent. This is just plain wrong. How do you respond to the accusation that the Republican caucus is indifferent?
Greta, how outrageous is that? I have traveled almost every month to an inner city school, both in my hometown of Richmond and elsewhere across the country, spending time in these schools with inner city students and kids. I don't look at them as being invisible. I look at them as being an inspiration. I met a young boy in New Orleans named Brian, and here's a kid who he's never met his mom, never knew who she was. The only time he's even spoken with his father is through prison bars. He's being raised by his grandmother, and he recently found out his grandma was diagnosed with cancer. But yet he was a positive kid. He was working to go to college. Here he was in an inner city school in New Orleans, able to be in that school because of a common sense conservative policy of education choice by Governor Jindal. We have solutions to help these kids. These kids are our inspiration.
All right. Well, the problem I have with this in particular is the use of an anonymous source, a GOP friend. And we saw Senator Harry Reid on the floor talk about Romney, saying that some anonymous source told him that Romney didn't pay taxes. You know, in the courtroom, you'd be thrown out of the witness stand, and the judge would tell the jury to ignore it. Are you willing to call out your own party when your own party, if it uses sort of these anonymous, horrible statements about each other?
I mean, this is why so many people across the country are so sick about what goes on in Washington. We shouldn't be hurling accusations
nameless
and doing things like that. I mean, the minority leader in the House should really, I think, apologize for that statement. That's outrageous. We all want to help inner city kids. We all want to help people. And the debate should be around what's the best way to help people. We feel that we have common sense conservative solutions that actually can produce results like those in Louisiana that are helping Brian.
As an aside, I also call it the media with its gross overuse of anonymous sources. I don't like it when the media uses it so liberally as well. All right, let me turn to another issue. Obamacare, what has been called by the Wall Street Journal secret mandate exemption. They've now sort of extended it to people who say that they believe that they have a hardship. Your thoughts?
Yeah,
first explain what it is.
This is a pretty amazing thing. The administration, the president, has consistently refused to agree and work with the Republicans to delay the individual mandate under Obamacare. Hence, you see all the people that are hurting because of this health care law. And now we find out that they're doing exactly that in secret behind closed doors, basically. And so my question to the president is, does he ever want to see this law fully implemented? And if he does not, doesn't that really tell you something? So we as House Republicans believe strongly we ought to go about being fair, delay this law and the individual mandate for this law for everyone. And we're going to vote on that tomorrow and use the savings for that to help protect Medicare and today's seniors. So, I brought this with me, Greta, because this is the form that really the White House has for people who want to claim a hardship exemption from the individual mandate. And interestingly, on this form, there is a catch-all category that says if you've experienced another hardship in obtaining health insurance and you cannot possibly document that, I guess you're also exempted, which means really he's doing what we're saying. We're trying to pass a law and do it with certainty. The White House is trying and is doing it in secret behind closed doors.
Well, to the extent that he keeps giving more people exemptions, though, what's going to pay for Obamacare, if it is ever going to be financially viable, is people paying the individual mandate. So he's exempting people. How in the world is this thing not going to collapse?
Well, this is true, but what happens is less people in Obamacare is less subsidy, which is why the savings is there that we're going to use to keep people from the individual mandate. We're going to use those savings to prop up Medicare because it is the Democrats who have taken money out of Medicare, and we're trying to say we've got to go and shore up Medicare. This time, tomorrow, it will be a vote on the formula that pays the doctors and the health care providers.
All right, Gabriella Miller, a 10-year-old, terribly tragic case, died of brain cancer last year, but there's a new law, or soon to be if the president signs it.
You know, a lot of people complain, and they're legitimate in their complaints about what doesn't get done and what's wrong with this place in Washington. But this particular instance is something that went right. The Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act was a bill which says we ought to choose pediatric medical research over politics. What the bill is basically taking monies out of the fund where you have taxpayer dollars going to pay for political conventions.
Which are parties.
Lavish parties, we all know. You stop spending taxpayer dollars for that, and let's do it for something to help save lives and cure disease, which is exactly what this is. It's a bill that was inspired by a little girl. Her name was Gabriella Miller. She's from Loudoun County, Virginia, diagnosed at 9 years old with an inoperable brain tumor. Became very passionate about the cause. She was a force of nature as a 9 and 10-year-old. Unfortunately, she just passed away in the fall. Greg Harper, a colleague of mine in Mississippi, had this bill. He and I met the parents and named the bill after Gabriella.
It's a Republican-introduced bill?
It is a Republican-introduced bill.
And the Senate has also passed it?
Amazing. This week, Greta, the Senate went and cleared this bill, and so it's on its way to the President's desk. And I look forward to the President signing it, because what this says is we all came together. We all were able to actually produce a positive result to help cure disease and to help promote research in the area of pediatric diseases.
Which is maybe a little bit to loop back to the beginning, that where Leader Pelosi said that Republicans were indifferent to this is, of course, to poor people, struggling families, and hungry children. At least she would concede you're not indifferent to suffering children.
You're exactly right, and we can work together towards that end.
Leader, nice to see you, sir.
Great to be with you, Greta.